So you were at Alabama last week. You saw them against Middle Tennessee State. You and I have talked about Alabama a whole lot. We both have pretty high to really high expectations for them. And we were throwing around a lot of, not observations yet, but thoughts about their offensive line last week. So I wanted to go right to this, and I wanted to talk to you about what you saw, because a lot of times the theme in week one is I may have high expectations for a team or a unit, and it's not that they live up to that standard in week one, but I see promise. I see signs. Like, I got a number of teams I feel that way about. You're sky high on their offensive line in the preseason. What did you actually see from them last week?
Well, that size and that power that we talked about, Josh, it's there. I mean, three guys over 350. And when they needed to get a push, there were certain times that they did. Struggled with movement a little bit. That's still a veteran front seven that they faced with Middle Tennessee. And you've got a couple younger guys that hadn't played a ton of football. But when it comes together, to me, it does look like a group that can be dominant. Now, pass pro is not going to be their strength. I don't think they're going to sit back there and try to have 5- and 7-step drops 40 and 50 times a game. I don't think J.C. Latham, that's going to be the strength of his game, and obviously not a freshman in Caden Proctor because he hasn't dealt with the kind of edge defenders that he will in this league. But when they find that continuity, that chemistry, they can be dominant. And I saw that a couple of times show up in that game. See, there's one from Proctor right there, a touchdown pass from Milroe, but I don't want to see my quarterback getting hit. He has to finish that block. And that'll come with a little bit of time. There's usually not an offensive line that just wows me week one. I thought Michigan's group looked pretty good. Georgia's group had some ups and downs. Texas, that group, we're high on that one. It was kind of up and down. We got all excited about the Auburn offense. Oh, there's so much talent in Auburn. They were kind of up and down a little bit because you're going to get smaller players that move a lot more. They're going to play a lot more high risk up front, and you're just not really used to it. And you're going at game speed, which you also haven't done in multiple months. So I don't really put a stamp on it as this group is this or is that. I like the way you phrased it. Did I see signs of it? Yes, I saw signs of this Alabama offensive line potentially being dominant, especially with the tight end help that they're going to get this year, which they've got a really strong room there that I think is going to be able to help them be even more a group that can get a push or play physical football.
So, I mean, it's like you fly all the time. I fly virtually every week. You know, when you take off and you're in a 757, even though it's bumpy on the way up, you have faith that on an aircraft of that size, flying a route that's that popular, you're going to get to a cruising altitude and it's going to be pretty smooth. And if you're in a turboprop, if you may be in a crop duster, it may just be bumpy the entire time. And so I try and distinguish that, not just when we're watching an individual unit, when we're watching teams. Like, there's some teams that may have played better last week than some that are ranked in the top 10, but we saw every ounce of potential out of already. And you may have some of them. Bama's one, maybe within Bama, the offensive line, where you're saying, we got some turbulence here. But wow, this thing looks impressive. And I think I know what these individuals could be when they gel. It's like looking at the puzzle pieces. They're just not fully interlocked. But you mentioned Texas there. Before we move on, out of all of the position units on that team, when we were talking to their team insiders in fall camp and preseason, they do an interesting thing over on Horns 24/7. They do a ranking of the groups they're most confident in. And the offensive line was way down the list just on the team of the units they were most confident in. So they were up and down last week. They go into maybe the most difficult environment that unit will face, maybe the most difficult team that unit will face all year. What do you see from them against Bama Saturday night?
Once again, up and down in that game. You saw some guys with some physical blocks, some pancakes. You saw some letdowns, a little bit of leakage. You saw some pass pro breakdowns. Quinn had to move around a little bit on a couple of throws. You don't want to see that. Last year, actually, McElroy and I were talking about this morning on our show, how last year Stark really dedicated himself to protecting that group. And I think Will Anderson was a big piece of that, but you had other guys that could still be problematic. This year, Braswell, Turner on both sides. But I think you almost have to add Deontay Lawson to that mix, because when we sat down with him, I asked him, I said, what are you most excited about this year as opposed to last year? You're kind of the guy. You're in that spot. You're the Alabama, like Mike linebacker. You're calling the plays and whatnot. He said, I'm excited about blitzing, man, to be honest with you. He's like, I think I'm going to get a chance to do that more this year. And he can be someone who can be very successful doing that. Does Sark take that approach? Is it a lot of 12 personnel? Is it a lot of 6- and 7-man protection? Is it a lot of quick ball distribution, which allows you quick or slide protection, which is a college football epidemic that we're heading towards. We could talk about on another day. But he did a great job doing that, and his quarterbacks did a great job getting the ball out quickly. I don't know if he feels like he has to take that route right out of the gate this time around. but I think he's going to end up having to take that route at some point this time around. The Texas offensive line's got a ton of talent, and they can play good football. It's just you're dealing with a different animal when it's Braswell, Turner, potentially Lawson coming. Aboigbe showed me a little bit from that group. Even younger guys like Quindarius Robinson may be able to show up in there and give you something every now and then. I don't think Alabama's going to have to dedicate 5, 6, 7 guys to get a legitimate rush on Quinn Ewers or whoever's playing quarterback for the Texas Longhorns. So I don't see them just holding up on their own. I think Alabama's too good, too talented for that.